Welcome to the Career Edge, where we unpack how work actually works. I'm Leslie Ferry. Imagine this. You send a teammate a simple text, just 3 words. Can we talk? You mean it as a casual check-in, not as something urgent. Your teammate, the receiver, reads it completely differently. They interpret it as something is wrong. By the time you connect, they've spent an hour bracing for a conversation that was never coming. You sent one message, and they received an entirely different one. That same type of invisible filter happens constantly at work, in every meeting, every interaction involving a piece of feedback, direction given or received, even demonstrating appreciation. Now let's think about this misinterpretation on a larger scale. For example, you pitch an idea or champion a process or share a direction you want your team to take. And somewhere between what you sent and what was received, something shifted. The outcome isn't what you expected, and you're left wondering what happened in the space in between. Something sits there between effort and the result, and it's invisible. And it shapes what gets received in all of our work interactions. Understanding it is what makes careers move. Sometimes in ways we most want, and even better, sometimes in ways we would have never imagined were possible. You've probably seen this person before. They move through the organization with just real ease, with strong dedication to their work, highly aware of how it touches others, and almost effortlessly, they keep things moving for everyone around them. When they bring an idea in to present, it quickly gains traction. Everyone just seems to immediately get it. In a difficult conversation, they leave people feeling more clear, not stuck. And when that same person is leading a team, they create collaboration that brings everyone along in the same, clearly understood direction. They also tend to get handed the more interesting work, not because anyone's playing favorite, but because the people offering the new opportunity, they've learned, whether consciously or not, that this person will move work forward with the least amount of friction. That's what flow at work looks like. Effort, producing results, ideas understood by the people who need to execute them or green light them, and collaboration building toward a common goal, even when difficulty and complexity are still present. Doing great, high quality work, that's the foundation of a career edge. Creating flow with teammates across an organization is what gets noticed by everyone, and for good reason. Technical expertise gets work started. The ability to move that work through people, to align, to gain real agreement, determines whether the work produces what it's capable of. So if creating flow is this valuable and the people who have it are this visible, it's worth asking why so many, capable, committed professionals can still feel like their effort and their results aren't quite connecting the way they want. Every person we work with has a natural orientation or a way of thinking, deciding, communicating, and contributing. We don't consciously choose our approach. It's instinctive, and it's our reality. This reality leads us to believe everyone else takes the same approach because the way we communicate feels like clear communication. The way we make decisions feels like sound judgment. Because our approach to work is so familiar, we stop noticing it's one way, among many, each equally valid, while each produce a different experience of the exact same interaction. That's exactly what's happening in that text message. The wiring between two people filtered what arrived before either of them could do anything about it. We call this the wiring gap on the show before. The distance between how we show up and how someone else experiences us through their own wiring. And it runs in both directions at once, shaping what others receive from us and what we receive from others. Once you understand this layer exists, friction stops feeling random or personal. The teammate who seemed difficult becomes someone whose orientation you can learn, or the relationship that felt permanently stuck starts to shift. Once a small change in how you understand that person makes collaboration feel much more natural instead of forced. The gap narrows every time you learn something about how someone is wired, what they need to feel clear, what motivates them, or how they process information. And the flow that felt elusive stops feeling like luck and starts feeling like something you're building. Understanding this layer doesn't replace anything you already bring to work. It amplifies it. The same capability, communicated in a form that maps to how someone is wired to receive it, lands completely differently than when it arrives in the form that feels natural to you, the sender. Picture someone with strong strategic thinking, but their ideas, they kept arriving feeling incomplete to the people who needed to sign off on them. The idea's benefits or how it would achieve a specific goal simply wasn't arriving in a form those specific people were wired to receive as complete. Once that person understood how those individuals were wired and adjusted how they presented ideas to them, the same thinking started to produce entirely different results. Their underlying capability never changed. What changed was how they shared it and how much of it arrived clearly on the receiving end. Think of someone you work with regularly who approaches work differently than you do, or someone you seem to have constant friction with, someone whose reactions sometimes catch you off guard, or whose way of working creates more friction than you feel that it should. You might even catch yourself thinking, they just don't get it. And this week, get curious instead. What do you know about how they're wired, how they make decisions, how they process information, how they respond to conflict, and what might open up in that relationship if you got genuinely curious about what they need to do their best work? That's where a career edge starts to build in today's work environment. It comes from understanding that distance between what you intend to send and how someone else receives it, and then doing the deliberate work to close that distance. So what you mean doesn't just get delivered, it gets understood. Thanks for listening to The Career Edge. I'll see you next time.